All right, we are now live with episode 2 of podcast to be named later. Again, I am here with Steve. I am Corey. Steve is the Cardinal fan of the show. I am the
Yes.
Brewer fan. It's, kind of the same stuff, different day. Our teams kind of suck.
Yes. Um, and, in Cardinal Nation, some interesting news with Contreras moving to first base. So, makes it a little interesting, on what that means for free agent Paul Goldschmidt. Um, so, yeah.
Oh, yeah, definitely. But before we dive down into that, because that will be part of our free agency and off-season talk, we will quickly break down the World Series, if that's kind of what you want to call it. It was more like the Dodgers and then the team that have seemingly found a way to win the American League.
Um, I was going to say was the World Series of the Dodgers and the team that showed up for a game and a half. That's
Yeah.
unfair. That's you know what, Corey. That's unfair of me to say because game one and two were competitive. I mean, they were one strike away from winning game one, right? I think they were ahead, and it was two strikes on Freeman on the grand slam
Yep.
with two out. So um, I will say I was glad to be wrong, and good for Freddie Freeman on the series he had. Um, the Yankees offense just apparently stayed in the ALCS. Aaron Judge disappeared faster than Democrats on election night. Um,
That is very true.
you know, wow, that's their guy. That's the guy they're building that franchise around. Um, we'd message each other. He's, you know, Hall of Fame numbers that he's putting up, and arguably the best season he's had. But man, just a no show. Um, in the World Series, and Otani didn't show up either, but the Dodgers found a way to rally, and really, I mean, it's weird because you're an inning collapse away from going back to LA, but
Yeah.
it was weird. It's weird to say that considering just outside of a game and a half where the Yankees just kind of dominated how even it was, but yet the Yankees couldn't win.
Yeah. And, just talking about that series, like me and my really good buddy in West Virginia, we talked the entire series. He's a big Yankee fan. He knows that I have a massive hate for all things New York and all things Los Angeles and all things Chicago. So this series, especially for you and me, was worst case scenario. You've got two of the largest sports markets in the world going at it for another championship. So it's like, who do you want to win more? This is essentially,
Oh, there would have been another worse World Series, and that would have been if the Mets got in, because then it was all New York. The Subway
yeah,
Series
just
part
like the
two.
Subway Series of 2000. Like, oh God.
Yeah, but you're
But
right.
yeah,
Two big
like,
markets.
yeah, and you're just thinking about it, like, who would you rather win? I mean, this, like, kind of sticking with your like political theme of Aaron Judge, disappearing faster than the Democrats on election night. It's like if you're if you for people that don't really quite understand the magnitude of how big this World Series was, put it in the terms of being an on the fence voter, an independent that was like, dude, really? I got to vote for this person or that person? Like, who do I want to win? Like, it's a giant deuce versus a turd sandwich. Like, oh, God. And that's how it was for me in this series because it's like, I hate the Dodgers with a passion, especially with everything that happened last offseason with them. And I've always hated the Yankees because of their dominance in the 90s.
There's only one team I hate more than the Yankees, and that's the Cubs. So
Yep.
for me, it was
Same.
wasn't a question. That I was good with LA winning. Um, they're going to pay for their contract mistakes down the road.
Yep.
Um, they wanted it bad. They got it. They went all in and did what they did with those contracts and how they negotiated those, and they'll have to pay the piper for that. But in the meantime, they got their ring, and we'll see how it goes for them next year.
Well, as
So
for right now, they got ring number 1. And it's even worse now because,
two, I mean, they got the 2021.
yeah,
It counts.
but
All
yeah, I
teams
mean,
played. They all played under the same scenario and circumstance.
yeah, we'll always give them shit for for having that Mickey Mouse championship. But we all know damn well if it was the Brewers or the Cardinals that won it, we'd be like, hey, fuck you guys. We won
Yep.
the World Series. Eat it.
Yep. Exactly.
But going back to the series real quick before we get off the topic there, because God, that was not a series at all. It was just straight domination by the Dodgers. But if there are any kids that are going to listen to this, that series proves why fundamentals are key.
Oh
They are
yeah.
crucial because the worst fundamentally sound team in baseball played in the World Series and got destroyed by one of the best fundamentally sound teams in baseball and best hitting teams in baseball. Well, ultimately, the best hitting team in baseball destroyed the worst fundamentally sound defensive team in baseball. And that's what's going to happen
And that's
because
why the simple things like
covering
fielding,
first
throwing, and
base,
catching are so key.
yep, definitely. Because a lot of people think that, the small stuff like what you said or not covering first base doesn't matter. Oh, God. The Yankees would have forced a game 6 back in LA had Garrett Cole covered first base.
Uh-huh.
Period. End of story.
Yeah.
Oh, well,
Um,
Rizzo just didn't get the first base fast enough. It's not his job. His
that
job
is.
is to field the ball. He did his job.
Yep.
Garrett Cole's job there was to cover first base.
And this is where I wish I could go to some of my little league kids that I'd coached who didn't understand or like when I would just run through scenarios with them in the field and say, runners here, ball hit here, where are you all going? Because like would tell my teams if a ball's in play and you're not moving, you did something wrong. Because a lot of these kids, they don't think that they need to move when a ball's put in play if it's not hit to them. And, I explained to them, you got a ground ball hit to the first baseman. I'm like, okay, so the first baseman is fielding it. Okay. So
Hmm.
what do you guys need to do? Well, pitcher needs to cover first. Right fielder, you need to shift over or shift down to back up first. Center fielder, you're shifting over to right. Second base, you're going to second in case the ball gets by because you're now backing up. You're now in play for a throw to second. Shortstop, you're moving over to back up second. Left field, you're moving into left center because you're now backing up shortstop. Third base, you're going to third in case shit hits the fan. And
Yep.
left center, and you're the left fielder, you're in left center because you might need to get over to third if it's really, really bad. Catcher, you're ready for a play at home. Yeah, there's only one, there's nobody on, and it's a ground ball to first base, but the Yankees proved if you're bad fundamentally in the field, even in a professional level where everybody thinks that's rock solid, it will just show how it can change a ball game. Because I think you and I think I said it to you, is like they had a little league inning, which for anybody listening that doesn't know what that means, a little league inning is when you give a team like 6 outs, where you literally have 2 innings worth of outs. And that's what the
Yep.
Yankees did in the fifth in Game 5. They had a little league inning. And I had a team they were notorious for doing that for the first half of the year, and we'd always lose these games by like 1 run, 2 runs, and they were getting down on themselves. And I was like, you're a good team. Good teams don't lose close ball games all the time. And I remember after a loss, and I pointed to a specific inning, and I said, what happened to that inning? And they're like, well, we made 3 errors. I was like, yeah, that's a full inning right there that you gave them for free. And how many runs did they score in that inning? And we went over that. And I said, if you don't make those errors, and when I mean errors, we're talking routine. I'm not like expecting all-star plays out of, a lot of these kids. Um, and they kind of looked back and it's like, oh, well, we win the game by 4. Yeah, like those innings can spiral, and that's what happened. That's why being sound in your fundamentals is so key. And it's more than the field too. It's also at the plate and on bases too. Fundamentally sound base running, that matters. Um, and the Yankees were not that at all.
Yeah, definitely. And that just goes to show that, even for, these small market teams like the Brewers, like if you're fundamentally sound, you can win games. And even though the Brewers didn't do a damn thing in the playoffs except for win one hell of a game, which arguably was probably the best series of the entire postseason. It's just things can happen and fall, and kind of fall your way. It's just the Brewers pitching did not come through. That's ultimately why they lost that series. But I do got to give a little shout out to my team because they are the team Gold Glove winners, as well as having 2 Gold Glovers with Sal Frelick and Bryce Terang. And Bryce Terang got the Platinum Glove, which I am stoked about because dude has been insane on the field. So I am very happy to see that. But now that World Series talk is over, we are officially 1 week into free agency,
Yeah. And
and nothing has been done yet,
um,
surprisingly.
there's been some minor things. I'm on MLB's website now of all of the free agents. So Austin Hedges signed a 1-year deal with Cleveland on November 6th. There's qualifying offers that have been made.
Yep.
Um, and Kyle Hendricks signed a 1-year deal with the Angels on the 7th. And TJ McFarland signed a deal with the Athletics on the 7th. Dylan Covey, 1-year deal with the Mets on October 31st. So those are the deals that have been signed, all 1-year deals with, guys that were expected to really get 1-year deals, and then some qualifying offers out there as well. So free agency is fully underway, and winter meetings will be happening in the next, 6 to 8 weeks, something like that.
Yeah, I believe the winter meetings are usually the first or second week of December.
Something like that. So yeah, Corey had a good idea of talking about free agents that we I think would be good deals. So I don't know if we want to go position by position or if you want to do.
I think first off, like just right off the bat, before we do go position by position, we just need to talk about the elephant in the room, that is Juan Soto. Because everybody from every single little outlet that I hear is that Juan Soto is being targeted by everybody. Like I hear he's possibly going back to the Yankees. I hear he's going to I hear the Mets are going to go after him hard. I heard the Phillies. I heard the Dodgers. The Rays said that they were going to look into him. The Padres did. It's like, who is not going to actually look at this guy
Yeah,
unless you're one of these smaller teams like the Cardinals and the Brewers, because it's like we all know we
Well,
can't afford that guy.
the Cardinals were rumored to be on in with when he was traded from the Nationals. Um, Part of that hiccup was they didn't feel like they would be able to keep him in free agency, though, especially with what they were going to have to give up. But you've got a right fielder who's 26 years old, and he had a 14.2 WAR. Um, for anybody who doesn't know, that's a really good WAR. Uh, so as far as Juan Soto is concerned, um, I think he is going to go to the team that gives him the most money. I don't think Juan Soto is looking at going to maybe the best situation for him or any of that. And so I think it's going to be who gives him the most money. And I think it comes down to, I think he's just going to stay with the Yankees.
Yeah, I think ultimately I guess the only three places that I could see him going are the Yankees, Mets, or Dodgers, because only those three teams do I actually truly see would be the best option for him. Like the Mets are not in a bad spot right now. They just need a little bit of help. Their owner clearly is not afraid to start dishing out an assload of money for what he wants and to better that organization. But at the same time, the Yankees said that they're all in. They want him back. And the Dodgers, we all know that they'd be all in too, because
Yeah.
deferred money,
And,
they're gonna defer some money there.
and I think as an organization, it comes down to uh, really, do you want to commit the kind of years and dollars that you're going to have to Juan Soto?
Right.
Right. So the room I'm seeing like 13-year, 700 million type
Yep.
numbers out there, and I think as an organization you have to go, do we want to be in a position then 7 to 10 years where maybe he has lost a step in the field or lost a half a second at the plate, and we're now stuck with 3 to 6 years and $60 million.
Hmm.
And that was always the question with Pujols in St. Louis, because they didn't have a DH, was what do you do when he loses a step in the field? And you've got that DH option for Soto if he loses a step in the field, but not at the plate. And I think organizationally, that's what you have to come down to. And if you're an organization like the Yankees, Dodgers, and Mets, it's not a big deal. Um, Pretty much every other organization, though, that's going to be a major, major concern because they can't afford to pay DH $60 million.
No. And
Um,
I think that's gonna be a big thing that we're going to talk about too, with going position by position, because there are some big time bats that are going to demand quite a bit of money that are literally just a DH, and that's going to be something that is really going to play a big role with free agency as we go on now with the universal DH and everything, because you got guys like JD Martinez that he's got that massive power, and anytime he comes up to the plate in any situation, you got to watch out. But
he is literally a DH.
yeah,
I mean, they even
he
have
is
like
garbage on the field.
6 players listed as DHs that are free agents: Jock Peterson, JD Martinez, Andrew McCutchen, Daniel Vogelbach, Eloy Jimenez, and Matt Carpenter. That's it. Those are the DHs that they have. But
Yep.
I look at some of these position guys and go, they're DHs. Right fielders. Like, I think it's fair to say at 35 years old, Jason Hayward's a DH now.
Yeah.
Um,
Like you might be okay with throwing him out in the field once every 2-3 weeks. One
right.
game, that's it. And he most likely is only going to play like 5 innings before you put somebody out there that's younger that can play the field better later in the innings, because it's like, okay, well, we need this guy out there because he can actually run, whereas Hayward, he kind of chugs along a little bit.
Yeah. So where'd you like to start, position wise?
Well, let's start it off the right way and go with starting pitchers.
Starting pitchers. All right. Um, so there's some guys that have qualifying offers out there. Um, that we'd have to keep in mind. Um, but I'm gonna start it at a pitcher that I pointed out when we did our first podcast that I look at as a long-term viable option in your rotation, and that's Shane Bieber.
Yep.
He's got his WAR was only 2.8, but he's 30 years old. Former Cy Young candidate. I can't remember if he won. We had that discussion. We had to look it up. And I look at that guy and go, if he comes back healthy, he's 30 years old. I can probably get a pretty affordable deal for him. Um, or maybe I do a 1 year. I'm not a big fan of like going to a 30-year-old doing a 1 year deal and then they have the year that they normally have and now they're wanting all the money. Like maybe you do if you don't want to do like a 3 or 4 year deal, maybe you do a 1 year with a club option for a second. Um, but I look at that guy and I'm like, that's a guy I would want to put in my rotation. Um, and for the sake of adding multiple arms, um, f- shooting the moon. Blake Snell, former Cy Young winner, 32 years old, no qualifying offer out there, 7.2 WAR. Um, you
Literally
know,
threw a no hitter this year.
you know,
Damn near threw 2 of them.
I think if you're, I think if you're a team looking to upgrade your rotation with a splash signing and an underrated signing, I'm targeting Blake Snell and Shane Bieber.
Yeah, I completely agree. And one guy as well that I think about too is Jack Flaherty. He's 29 and has a 5 WAR. So
Yeah, but
he's got no qualifying offer either. So for
there's a
somebody at
reason.
that age, well, yeah, I mean he's not the best arm on there, but he's got a lot of potential. And especially
Oh,
for a
it's
team like somebody like the Brewers, to where it seems like they bring in guys to where it's like, dude, why would you bring in this guy whose ERA is like a 7? And then he comes
Flaherty.
in and pitches pretty damn well, like Frankie Montas, who wasn't bad. He had a terrible ERA, but he comes in and pitches pretty damn well for the Brewers.
Here's the
Like it's
curious case of Jack Flaherty.
yeah,
So shows ace potential in St. Louis. Uh, St. Louis commits to him with a contract, gets hurt, then gets hurt, ends up coming back, not pitching well, gets traded at the deadline to Baltimore, struggles in Baltimore, ends up in LA as a free agent on a flyer, and then puts together a really good year. The curious case of Jack Flaherty is he an ace that he has shown he can be, or is he an injury prone starting pitcher that is 30 years old and, you know, has bounced around a little bit because he can't stay healthy? That's the curious case of Jack Flaherty. Just because
yeah.
I know that from him being on the Cardinals.
I agree there too. Um, but I
And and,
think for
and
like
Shane
for
Bieber
me,
going to be kind of a similar situation except for the bouncing around part, but I can get Shane
right?
Bieber cheaper.
Yeah, definitely. Because I think Shane Bieber. I mean, he's shown that he can be an ace,
Yeah.
but at the same time, I don't think he's really shown the ego of one of these top aces to where he's like, dude, I know my potential. Come on, let me see some extra zeros at the end of that contract.
Right. And I mean, and if you're looking to, I think if you're a team looking for just some 1 year stopgaps, call me crazy, but I mean, I would still throw a 1 year contract out to Verlander and uh, Scherzer.
Oh yeah,
Sure.
definitely. And I have heard Scherzer's name tied with Milwaukee, so that
There's
to
another
me,
interesting rumor for those two, is that there might be a Detroit reunion.
I have heard that as well. That this will be their final go. They want to reunite in Detroit and make one big push with Detroit to try and win a series.
Yeah, I
Which,
have heard that too.
if that happens, I think that would be cool. But if I'm Detroit, I'd kind of stay clear a little bit. I mean, Scherzer still clearly can still sling it. Verlander, he's going to be 43 soon,
Yeah,
and
had a
he's
better WAR than Scherzer.
yeah, but he was
Uh,
also with a better team as well.
yep. And the only issue I would have if I'm Detroit bringing those two guys in is, am I sacrificing any development of all of my young talent? Which I know is always something clubs have to manage: short-term
Yeah,
gain versus long-term return. Um, but if you can bring those two in on 1 year deals with the understanding of that's it, and they're there to kind of maybe groom these guys and teach them the ways, then it's probably well worth it.
yeah, and I mean, knowing with how Verlander and Scherzer both are, Verlander, I know a little bit more than Scherzer has been more than willing to sit down with the younger guys and kind of help put them under his wing and kind of groom them a little bit to be like, okay, well, I see some great things you've been doing. This is what I would do and what I have learned how to do from these pitching coaches. I think you should give that a shot. Let's see how it goes. And it's worked out for these younger guys to where, they've gone along with Verlander and they've they've gone from who the hell is this guy to holy shit, that guy just threw a no hitter and he's about to throw another one.
Yeah,
But
so I think there's a lot of interesting starting pitchers that are out there.
oh yeah,
I think
and
if you're a team who is looking to compete and was competitive this year and feel like you just need to add an arm or two to your rotation, there's a lot of guys in this starting pitching list who I think can come in and do that. Maybe you're not getting your number one ace, unless you're really forking out the dough for some of the top few. But if you're looking to fill like that number two or three spot, I mean, there's some good arms there.
oh god, yeah. And for me, for what I would like to see with Milwaukee, I would like to see us go after Bieber, Flaherty, or Snell because I would love to see Corbin Burns come back to Milwaukee, but I feel like he's kind of,
Well, and you
I
got that,
feel like we've kind of burned that bridge.
and they got that qualifying offer
Yeah.
out there on him too.
And with how the Brewers are, they're not willing to sacrifice any of the future. So
Yeah,
I really don't see Burns going back to Milwaukee. But, for cheapness wise, I would like to see Bieber, maybe Andrew Heaney. I think he would be pretty decent, or maybe even Nathan Givaldi, because he
yeah,
doesn't have a qualifying or either. I think he would be a phenomenal
oh
pickup for a couple of years to help until
yeah,
we've
and
got some great arms down in the minor league system right now, and if we can just bring him in for a couple of years to
well,
throw in between
Eval-
Woodruff and
Evaldi's proven he can pitch out of the pen too.
yeah,
Um, that's a guy who, you might bring in for a year, but then the next year is a bullpen guy for you.
hmm
So I like that one too. Um, so let's get to the relief pitchers. The thing that over the last what decade roughly is becoming more and more crucial.
yeah,
Ever
especially
since
here in the
the
last few seasons.
Indians had to, because folks, that's who they were. They were the Indians when they went to the World Series. and they had three starting pitchers and relied on Andrew Miller and that bullpen to damn near win them a championship. So this isn't me trying to be, oh, you just don't like the. They were the Cleveland Indians then, okay? That's what they were. Um, and I look at the relief pitchers and go, if you're looking for the splash, you're pretty limited.
Yeah.
You got Tanner Scott, 30 years old, 4.5 WAR. Um, and if I think if we've learned anything from relief pitchers is it feels like there's a life cycle where they burn out after like a few years, and then they need like another like year or two to recover, and then they have like a spurt again. Um,
Kimbrel.
yeah, so I was going to bring Kimbrel up, and say like I kind of look at the relief pitchers as guys that I'm looking just to like plug in for like a year. And so I see like Craig Kimbrell out there, 37. He's only got a 1.3 WAR, but good veteran guy. Kenley Jansen, 2.5 WAR. Um, I kind of, you know, another veteran guy to kind of, come in. David Robertson and Chapman as well up there. Guys that you're not going to be extending 3 or 4 year deals to, but maybe
No.
one, two tops. And that's kind of where I would approach the relief pitchers this offseason if I was an organization, unless I'm getting Tanner Scott, who's
Yeah,
young.
Tanner Scott, I 100 or Tanner Scott and Jeff Hoffman, I think they're probably maybe even Clay Holmes. I think those are probably about the only guys that I would actually really consider at throwing, you know, a 4 or 5 year deal at.
So, yeah, I agree. For the most part, you're looking at a plug and play of 1 to 2 years with with a lot of the bullpen. There's talent there. It's just older veteran talent that you're not going to want to commit a lot of years to. You might commit
Right.
the dollars to it for a year, because there's no risk there for a 1 year deal. But still a lot of talent, with Aroldis Chapman, David Robertson, Kenley Jansen, uh, Craig Kimbrell. I mean, you're talking about guys that have won championships. So,
Hmm.
um, otherwise, there's really nothing too crazy about the relief pitchers in my mind.
No, I
Just a lot
100%
of
agree.
veteran, yeah, just a lot of veteran talent.
Yeah, and I completely agree with you. I don't really see any names that are really going to pop out except for those three that we both named, and you can't really go anywhere farther than that.
hmm Well, let's start building the field here, and we'll just start at first base. Top two guys, 34 years old and 30, both have qualifying offers. Um, Christian Walker and Pete Alonso. Uh, Opinion of me, I'm not giving up anything future wise for a 34-year-old first baseman, and I don't think I am either for Pete Alonso. That's just my opinion. And I've left Corey speechless. Oh, Corey is now gone. So it's just me. Um, I'm sure he'll message here in a sec about something died. Um, but it still says I'm live, so I'll just talk. But I'm not giving up anything for those two first basemen. If Corey can hear me, I would actually. I know the WAR isn't there. It's only .5 WAR. And he's 35. But Anthony Rizzo, former Cub, just a really good clubhouse guy that you can't measure in WAR. He's been beloved in Chicago and he's been beloved in New York. And I think if you are looking for a veteran who has won a championship, played in another World Series, that's really, a guy to kind of help bring people together. Obviously, that's not going to be, an LA Dodgers kind of move, with Freddie Freeman. Um, but obviously staying in New York could be a possibility. Um, but I kind of see him going to a team that's looking to take that next step. And how ironic could it be if he ends up back in Chicago? If you go over to second base, no qualifying offers out there. And I think, Gleyber Torres is the obvious choice. He's 28 years old, 5.3 WAR, a lot of talent, and no qualifying offer. That's kind of really who you're going to try to target, I think, if you're in need of that position. Shortstops, um, top one is Corey just sent me a message with a swear word. Um, for top guy, qualifying offer, no thanks. Says the show has been killed, but I don't know. It says I'm live, so I don't know. Let me send him this link. We'll see if he. Oh no.